I call the meeting to order. I apologize for the delay. We were waiting on traffic and things like that. Attending tonight's meeting, we have our property manager, Dina Miller, and Susan Vogel, and myself. We have a couple of visitors. We have on the agenda a vote to approve minutes. We're going to hold off on the minutes until the next meeting because there are not enough commissioners here to make that vote make any sense. Having said that, Adina, have you got anything for us in the property manager's report?
Things are pretty quiet. We had our fall arts festival. You can see
We saw the decorations around.
So that went really well. We had about maybe 25 people here.
That's good.
So that went really well. We are still finalizing the contracts for the monthly exterminating to begin. We have a few things that we're starting for the new year. So monthly exterminating, the power washing, we decided to hold off to the new year to start it. What else are we working on? The snow contracts are in place already. Everything's pretty routine. The only thing that we're kind of bringing on are monthly treatments. We've been noticing that there's been spotting of increased like insect calls, so we think the best thing to do is do maintenance.
Okay.
Another thing that we are, we have two contracts that we're weighing for the tree replacement. One came in really expensive, and the other one we liked them, but there was a component that we needed them to add in. So we're really close. I think by next meeting we'll have that finalized. Otherwise, we're pretty good. We're going to roll out the newsletter for November-December collaborative. We're still working on a date for the Christmas party. We're kind of thinking to roll it until right after the holiday and just kind of have Santa do a special visit after he recovers. So, but it's just, we're so crunched for time, it kind of crept up on us really quickly. Other than that, you know, we are moving forward with the releasing and recertification. So this year everyone's doing full certification so we can get an accurate read on the entire property. And we have an updated lease that we're rolling out to kind of address a lot of the issues we're having here and get everybody on one accord. That's about it. We're pretty quiet overall.
And would I be correct in assuming that any changes to the lease would also be reflected in the lease for the Royal?
Definitely, yes. I mean, it'll tailor to what the Royal will be, but more than likely they're going to almost mirror image.
We would contemplate for the Royal also. Okay. Old Town Hall houses or the Royal development update. If you've driven by the site recently, you will notice that the building is at its full height. The roof has been is in place. We are beginning to put the Tyvek wrap around the exterior of the building. There is still some exterior work that needs to be done in the area of what will become the common room. The hope is that over the next couple of weeks we will get the building sealed up so that as we proceed through the winter months, we will not have a problem with cold weather impacting. The work will move to interior work, and we should be able to proceed with that without any problems because the building will in fact be entirely enclosed.
Terrific.
Looks great. It does. I saw it this morning.
I can also report from firsthand knowledge that I don't know about neighbors on Academy or in back, but on Highland, I talked to a couple of the neighbors there, and they've complimented us on the fact that the construction work is going on without any interruption to the neighborhood. Contractors have done what we've asked them to do, and that is to park all their vehicles on the site. We're not having problems with people parking in places they don't belong. So that's encouraging news.
Terrific.
just going back to the property manager's report for two things. We also ordered the signage for the parking area to control the traffic going in and out. And we noticed that there are quite a few of the lamp posts that are out. So we reported them to Eversource. Their initial response is 5 to 30 days. So, you know, in case you guys are getting calls about that, it's already been reported. It's about 14 of them out, so.
That's a lot.
Yes, it is a lot.
Yeah. So.
And I'm not sure I understand what the problem is, because I thought we had moved to LEDs for these lights.
I'm not sure. All I really know is that Eversource has control over them. I'm actually waiting for them to get back to me too, because I know Jill said when they had one or two out before that there was a debate whether or not the town of Darien was responsible or Eversource. When you go on the Eversource website, Darien does not come up as part of the drop down, but they did take the complaint, so I'm not sure. I'm hoping it's Eversource.
We'll get it fixed.
Okay.
And while we're speaking of lights, the lights out front are still not fixed, and that's an issue. We need to have the front of this building lit up.
Okay.
Because tonight when I came in, it was completely dark out there, and there's no.
Yeah, that lamp post is out too.
But there are lights in the canopy.
I think those are called. Okay.
And whose responsibility are those?
Those definitely
Should
are
be Joe,
responsible.
yeah.
So Joe's aware of it. We've talked about it at the last meeting, so that's
Okay.
something that should be fixed.
So can we make that a point of getting resolved before the next meeting?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I'll address it tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Terrific.
Okay. Old business? I'm not aware of anything.
No, I think we were.
In fact, the one item you have listed under new business should really be an old business item, because we have discussed it prior to this meeting. So that will be the next item, and that is, we have been asked by Planning and Zoning to approve the latest plan for the widening of West Avenue. Nothing has changed. I have a picture if anybody's interested in looking. I didn't get it printed out because it's too big for my printer, but I have it on my computer. They're going to have an easement on our property on the northeast corner of Weston Road. And what that will do is there'll be one large tree has already been removed. There will be several other smaller trees on that corner that will be removed. And then they will widen the road to make a left turn lane. And then the plan, their plan, is not to put a retaining wall on that corner as they back up onto our property, but to regrade the property down to the road level. That's, last time we discussed that, we thought that was preferable because it's much easier to maintain that gentle slope rather than to have to cut above and below the retaining wall. In addition, as part of this easement, there will be a very modest proposal for some payment in lieu of the easement. That payment originally at one of the meetings was stated to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 to $6,000. That was in error. That payment would be more like $1,100 to $1,200. The commission, the last time we discussed this issue, discussed that in lieu of payment, we would much rather have the contractors, while they are on site, put plantings in to spruce up that corner. Let them spend the money. They're going to have the landscaping contractors under contract anyway. They might just well go ahead and do the landscaping on that corner in lieu of any payment to the housing authority. So, having said that, are we all in agreement that we're going to go ahead and
yes,
and
just one
accept
question.
Yes.
I mean, I just would want to make sure that we would get to see what the investment was in the landscaping for that area to make sure that it is close to the 1,100 to 1,200.
Not only will we make sure that happens, but I will also make sure that at the time that this work is this project is not going to start till next year. But I will also make sure that at the time they go ahead with the project, if it turns out that the money involved in terms of the payment for the easement is not sufficient to do what we think is appropriate, would we be allowed to contribute some additional money to the contract to make sure that it does get done the way we want it?
Right, I think that's really important, that it is, you know, that it's done properly, that it looks the way we want it to look, and that there's some type of a barrier there for the traffic that, and the lights that are going to be coming into that, those buildings down there, so. Okay.
Okay, everybody's in agreement, we'll go ahead, I'll call Jeremy tomorrow and let him know that we're in agreement, they can move forward.
We are, because we know that Jane and Peter and.
Yes, they all agreed that this is, and I got an email from Peter
Yep.
saying that he's total support with this thing,
Yep.
so I'll give Jeremy a call.
Perfect.
The next item that I have, that's not actually on the agenda, but it's new business, there are a number of items, I shouldn't say a number, there's two, I believe 2 items currently causing some legal issues. In both cases, the issues involve Imagineers rather than the Housing Authority. Under normal circumstances, when this type of legal action takes place, both the insurance company for the Housing Authority and the insurance company from Imagineers would be contributing to these expenses. In this case, Imagineers has assumed responsibility for the entire problem, and therefore they have notified our insurance company that they are not expecting the Housing Authority to contribute anything to this issue. There is a document from the lawyers representing Imagineers that I, as chairman, need to sign, indicating that we're aware of the fact that they are taking on the entire responsibility, and I am prepared to sign that document. I just needed to let you people be aware that the document's out there and that we're going to sign it. Now, the one item that is in the document that we all need to be aware of is because the client, or the lawyer is now representing 2 clients, Imagineers and the Housing Authority, although the lawyer is convinced that this only impacts Imagineers, does not in fact impact the Housing Authority. Should it turn out during litigation that the Housing Authority does have a separate interest, the lawyer will have to take the authority to represent Imagineers as their primary authority and will notify us that it would be appropriate for us to engage other counsel, which we will do at that time.
Okay.
But that's all in the document. I will sign the document tomorrow and get it back to them so they can proceed. Are we all set? We're all in agreement?
All set?
All set. The Heights, we got anything from the Heights? We got anything?
It's about the lease. If all changes made to the lease will be added to the agenda and recorded in minutes.
No, because they don't require board approval.
I'm sorry?
They don't require board approval.
No, it's not a.
It's not a board
It's not an issue for the Housing Authority. It's an issue for Imagineers. So if there's a lease issue, you need to discuss that with Imagineers. We don't deal with the individual leases. We deal with procedural issues. For instance, when if Imagineers decides they want to modify the lease, they will come to the Housing Authority to notify us what modifications they are making to the lease. But if there's a dispute between a tenant regarding the lease, that dispute is managed through Imagineers. It does not involve the Housing Authority.
I didn't hear the Dana, under her property manager report, mentioned that a formal hearing request was submitted to the authority. Did you receive that formal hearing request?
There is a formal hearing request that has been, an application is made for one. It has not been determined that that request is going to be granted or when it will be granted. It will not be done at this meeting.
And it's also not an item that would appear on the property manager's report.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not aware that the grievance procedure has been changed.
Okay. And then the residents of the Heights, we received a notification that the closet doors would be locked if you didn't select the option to have washer and dryers put in your unit. Are you aware of that?
So to be clear, it is not a closet door. It is the laundry room, the laundry closet, but it's not a closet. We have about 20 residents that are not paying washer dryer fees. The only way for us to regulate that they do not in fact use those machines, we've sent out a survey to say if they did have one and if they had one in their unit that they either were utilizing, then we would implement the charge beginning December 1st, and that if they did not have one, the only way for us to do that is to secure that closet because we don't live in those units. And if they have a unit in there that they're not paying for, if we remove it and don't secure that area, then they can always order a unit of their own, which we don't have control over. So the only way that we can do that is to secure all of the closets with a master key lock that they can't access that one closet. It's the same thing as locking the mechanical rooms in the units to make sure that they can't access certain things that they don't need access to.
So the cloud, okay.
And how long has it been going on? When did they start locking those doors, do you know?
I can't speak before August 5th, 2019, because that's when I got here.
When did the notification go out?
I'm off the top of my head, I don't know, but I think you guys have it.
Was it this
About a
month?
month ago, 2 months?
It was, I want to say it went out like maybe the first week of November, and they had like a 2-week window to respond as to whether or not, I know the deadline to respond was the 22nd of November. And the notice let them know that if they did not notify us that effective December 1st, they would see a laundry room charge on their rent bill.
Is that legal to lock the closet door
Yes, because it's not a form of egress.
so it's legal to lock the closet door so that residents can't have access to the full?
It's not a closet, it is a laundry. It's not a storage area, it's not a clothing closet. The sole purpose of that area in the unit is for washer dryers. So if they do not have a washer dryer or don't wish to use the equipment that is in there, the only way for us to securely monitor that is to put a master key lock on there.
Because regardless of whether it's provided by the housing authority or
They're
it's
not allowed
purchased,
to.
let me just finish, or it's purchased by a resident, there's a fee for having a washer and a dryer in your unit.
Yes, but they're not allowed.
I'm sorry, could you just let, I just need to let her answer the question so I can hear the answer.
Yeah,
We can
so
get it
they're not
recorded.
allowed to have their own equipment. The only equipment they are permitted to have is the equipment that they lease from the housing authority.
Okay.
But many of the units are equipped with them, but residents are not being charged for them, a small fraction of the residents. So when I went through all the leasing charges to make sure everything was accurate, that group of residents was sent a letter notifying them that, listen, we realize that you're not being charged. If you have an appliance in your unit, we need to know. If you would like to use it, we're going to begin charging you for it. If you don't want to use it, we're going to secure that room to ensure that we know that there's no use.
Because it's clear in the lease
It's
that
clear
there's
in
a
the lease.
charge for a washer and a dryer.
It is.
Okay, I'm asking because this is something that is new to me, so I just wanted to be clear about what the.
Yes.
Is that going to stand true for the Royal as well? Because at the Royal, from what I saw, there's an option to have washer and dryers or the laundry room like here. So if the residents don't have the washer and dryers in their units, they'll be charged $50 as well.
I don't think that's something
No.
we're prepared to.
If the
Well,
lease will be the same there as it is here, you have an option to have these appliances in the individual apartments.
And if they do,
And in
then
certain apartments, because as people changed, rather than move the equipment in and out, the equipment was in the apartment and it stays there. But if you choose not to use that equipment, if you choose to
Well, no, if you
use,
choose not to pay for the use of the equipment.
that's correct.
Then the equipment needs
Will
to
be
be
secured.
It will be
secured.
secured. And the lease
Okay,
is
so now
very
I'm
clear that
understanding this,
if you wish to have a washer and dryer in your unit, you don't want to use the
For
public
your
one.
use, for your
For
use.
your use in that unit, you must rent them through the program set up by the
Got
housing
it.
authority.
And what if you don't have the washer and dryer in your unit?
then we're going to secure
Then
the closet
then the
to
space will
ensure
be
that.
secured.
Okay.
Because the sole purpose that space was put in each of these was to accommodate a washer and dryer.
Okay.
It was never intended to be an additional closet, additional storage space. It was always intended to be a space for a
Got it.
washer and dryer.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, since you became the property manager, how many units had theirs locked, their laundry room locked? You know?
I wouldn't know that answer.
We don't know.
Have any of them been locked
From
up?
inspection, like,
Well,
did you
it's-
see
It's
anything?
not, I'm not gonna
before
discuss
you-
what I find in individual apartments in a public setting, so.
Not a person, not a name, how many units?
I'm not gonna
have you-
discuss what we find in a unit in a public setting.
Well, and plus the deadline was not until November 22nd, so we might not even have that information available at this
We
point.
do now
Oh, we
because
do,
the
okay.
deadline passed, so. It didn't request whether or not the unit was locked. We just asked if they had it and if they didn't have it and if they wanted it, and it informed them that if they did not want it, or if they did not want to incur the charge and they were not utilizing it, then we would be coming through and locking that room.
And so this is just in keeping with what's currently in the
Yes,
lease agreement.
it's,
Okay.
it's actually enforcing.
That sounds-
Via email at some point that we received? So you can see it since it's procedural?
I don't care. I can email it to you, she can email it. Nothing gets altered. Every resident gets the same exact correspondence, so it doesn't matter.
Send me a copy.
I absolutely
Thank
will.
you. Anything else? That brings us over to the Royal. Anything I'm not aware of? I know we have an issue that's gonna come up a little later in the meeting, but anything else that you're aware of? Anything you're aware of?
No, only that. with
As
the
a-
start of
Wait,
the
I'm
new-
sorry, was there something that you had, were you about to say something? I'm sorry, I thought I
I
heard.
can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I thought I heard someone starting to speak over there. Oh, was there something you
I'm
want?
ready to move in.
Oh, you're ready to move in, okay, I'm sorry.
appreciate
I can understand that.
We are building as fast as we
Like
can.
everybody else. Excuse me.
As I said earlier, the project is on schedule, it's on budget. We have almost got the building secured, and that our hope is to get it secured before any bad weather sets in, so that we can continue with the interior work without any problem of cold weather and snow and all the rest of that stuff.
Certainly,
Great.
and certainly with the Royal was moving in a positive direction. What we're doing in January is we're gonna start having monthly like socials with the relocated residents so they can get used to coming back together and kind of also getting their ideas for what they wanna see happen there. So a lot of what we do here now is moving in.
Some residents are already meeting regularly at the senior
Yeah, the
center,
senior
they have
center.
lunch together at the senior center. So the project, I realize it's a hardship, but the project is moving along and it is on schedule. We would expect that by summer of next year, we will begin to move people in. I don't have an exact date and we won't know for another few months. Just one other comment on the Royal, there have been all kinds of requests for applications. When can we start applying for residency at the Royal? There is a website, the Royal has its own website, and there is a form on that website that people can fill out that will put them on a list to be notified when
the
we will
list
begin
opens,
to
right.
accept applications. And the reason for the timing of all of this is because under the laws that we operate, the financial data that we collect in the application is only valid for a very short period of time, either 3 or 4 months. So if we began to accept applications today, and it was a full 7 months before we began occupancy, the data we would have on those forms would be out of date, and we would have to have the forms filled out again. So we will wait until we have a much better handle on when the occupancy date will be, and then we will begin to accept applications for people to move into the Royal.
Because we only want them to do it once.
We
Only
would
want them to fill out the application.
We really would prefer that application only be filled out
Yeah.
once.
Well, it's, I
Try
think
not
that's
to make-
respectful of the incoming tenants' time.
Try not to make busy work for people.
And the staff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the staff, because the staff has to review all that data, and we really don't want to do anything that just doesn't make sense.
Right.
So that's why that is the way it is. Anything else? Anybody else got any comments? Anything else? Are we done? In that case, we will adjourn the public session and we will move into executive session to discuss a couple of issues.
And we're not coming back
We
into
will
public
not be
session.
coming back into public session to vote on anything.